Hello and welcome back. This is my review of the LEGO Speed Champions McLaren Senna. It is the third McLaren car to be introduced in the Speed Champions line, and it's one of the first Speed Champions cars to be released for 2019. The very first thing that I need to do here in this video is establish exactly what we're looking at. Now, as best I can tell from everything that I've seen, this is not based on just a simple, basic McLaren Senna. This is actually directly inspired by the Carbon Theme edition. From everything that I've been able to see, I might be mistaken on this, but I'm pretty sure it's based on the Carbon Theme edition, which is a basically raw carbon fiber bodied thing of amazement with a lot more orange accents. They're actually an orangish yellow than the standard vehicle. And I think if you spend some time, if you would like to spend some time looking at images of the Carbon Theme edition of this and kind of go back and forth, it'll help you to understand what different elements are, what different parts are supposed to represent on the real thing. Gives you more of a direct alignment if you're looking at this as as an attempt at a replica. Now, I'm just going to say right from the start, I feel like this is not a very good replica of a McLaren Senna, no matter what theme that you're looking at. And I know that many people will disagree with me on that, or will take issue with me daring to criticize the look of something that looks so cool. But looking at it as a replica, I think that the nose, basically right there, looks awesome and is as accurate as I could possibly ask for, and then some from a Lego thing. I think that the tail section back there, basically everything you see right here is great, is just wonderfully done. It's so much better than I could ask for. You bring in more of this little center divider here, that starts to kill it for me. At least the windscreen is placed in the right place relative to the front axle, I think, but I just don't see enough of the distinguishing features of a Senna. This is just stuff to kind of establish where I'm coming from, and if you stick with me, then good for you. I've got a lot more to say about this that's a lot more positive, because all that I just said aside, I feel like this is one of the greatest Lego cars ever, especially for its size. It's definitely one of the hottest looking Lego cars I've ever had my hands on, or that I've ever seen in person. And the build for it is simply amazing. It's incredible. I really liked the little Mini Cooper, the classic Mini Cooper that they did, which has a really unique build. This also has a very unique build. This introduces more and uses more cool techniques, more interesting part usages than I've seen on anything of this size from an actual produced, mass-produced official Lego set ever. I mean, it's that good. If you want to check out my build of this, you can see my build over on my build channel. But if you're interested in buying one of these things based on what it looks like, you might not want to actually watch that build video, because you might want to just discover some of the techniques in real time just as you go through the instructions. There are some real surprises, and I won't spoil too many of them here, unfortunately. Looking at the thing is going to automatically spoil some stuff for you, and it is kind of my responsibility going through this as a review to also consider the build techniques and part usage, but I won't go too far with it. The most interesting thing in how it's built, I believe, is the use of an upside down short windscreen down here. Where's my arrow? Down here. That's an upside down windscreen. One of those little one brick tall windscreens, little sliver one that is typically used for smaller than minifig scale cars. It's mounted upside down in there. I won't spoil how it's connected, but it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. There's still room to put a minifigure in there. You can seat a minifigure inside of this thing, but that's an upside down windscreen, which gives you those large side door windows that are on the real thing as well. Now, I think that the sticker that's used there, and yeah, they do rely on stickers quite a bit in this set, unfortunately. The sticker is not quite doing it. The upper part of that, this upper beam here, really needed to be much, much thicker, I feel. That the height of that, the gray section right there, needed to be significantly greater to really capture some of the uniqueness of the look of the real thing. I also really have a problem with how much orange is here on the real thing, even on the carbon theme one, if that's what it is. They only put orange just along the sides, and the orange is dominated by the center gray. So here you've got the orange going all the way back. And I did bring in an extra piece into the studio. So just by carrying the natural base color of the body as established here through, I think that actually does much better. This is actually, wow, this is actually my first time putting that piece on. I just brought the piece with me, and it looks so much better to me now. Wow, that really helps tie everything together. I did not realize just how much the excess orange on this piece was ruining it for me. That really helps to me to tie the nose back to the windscreen. So now, instead of having this suspension of disbelief zone right here that really messes with my mind, I now see Senna going all the way through to here, and then it's just a little bit of area in here that kind of falls apart, the sides, though, and a valiant effort was made to get the side scoops in there. It's just not dark enough in that space. Again, I feel like the sticker is messing it up. Maybe it's mostly the stickers on this entire set that are messing it up. That honeycomb needs to be significantly larger. It should have gone all the way up in here. Should have had a lot of darkness in this whole area to establish that huge scoop. And then, like I mentioned already, if this was thicker, and if the gray sticker for the top of this was able to be made the full size, or just significantly larger in some way, to allow that gray to go from the nose to the base of the windscreen, just leaving the orange on the side, or even if there was a way to do just orange stickers for the side, since this is a fairly advanced model, I think that would have made this amazing. Wow. So going back to the default build, the way it's intended to be and the way that you build it right out of the box, please understand that anytime that I criticize something like this, it is out of care. I know a lot of viewers really get upset when I provide critique, especially if it feels strong, because viewers know that Lego designers are very, very good. Well, I know that Lego designers are very, very good. I know that they're great, in fact. They are masters. They are better at Lego work than I will ever be in my entire life. I do not critique them out of jealousy. I do not critique them out of being mean. I critique stuff that they do. I critique stuff that's in front of me because I care. I care about the source material. I like cars. I've always liked cars, and I want this thing to look amazing. And when it doesn't, or if there are things about it, or things about anything that I see in front of me in the studio that don't make sense to me, or that aren't ideal, or that don't match up with the way that I expect them to be, or the way they should be based on source material, I'm going to call that out. And it's not out of hate. It's just out of, honestly, doing my job here as a reviewer. So just continuing on to the back, as I already mentioned near the outset, the back of this is really good. It's a little bit thick here, but it has to be at the top of the wing. Let me get you down lower. You know, at the thickest point, it is the full height of a brick, not including a stud on the top. So it's, 2 plates and a tile thick. But that was necessary to get this to be strong enough to hold itself together. You can actually take off one layer of that, I believe, and it'll still hold itself together, kind of. But they couldn't have sold it like that. The designer actually got in a very nice approximation of the swan neck style mounts for the wing there, which is very good. The use of these triangular elements on the side, I believe, is wonderful. All this shaping in here is very interesting to me. They got the diffuser there. Nice that there's some orange showing around the wheel, inside of the wheel wells also. The orange outline, by the way, that we see here with the actual orange wheel with the black insert is intended to represent the lettering and line work on the Pirelli P0 option tires for this thing. It should be yellow, but it's like an orangish yellow again, so there's just a color substitution that was done here to try to get it closer, which is fine. And then these lights that use what was, I think, first a Nexo Knights spear point element, here done in red. Those are very well done, well placed, and very nice. And another element that was transparent and originally introduced in Nexo Knights is used up here for these lights. These are Nexo Knights trans neon reddish orange or orangish red axes, and they're inserted in an interesting way that's actually far less tricky than I was originally expecting. I thought there was going to be some interesting angling of parts to hold it in. I didn't know how it was all going to fit, but again, I won't spoil that for you, but the pieces are there. They're plain to be seen, and it did go together nicely, and it was enjoyable, and it was a good little surprise. Again, I really like the front end of this thing, just like I like the back end. And one thing that I've not mentioned just yet is this outlet here behind each of the front fenders. This section, this hollowed out area, that's very good. Has some nice depth, nice shaping with the wedge curved wedge. the curved piece, the 1x2 by 2/3 with the 45-degree cut on it, coming down to the two-sided 1x1 panel. Yeah, that's very, very good detail. Again, considering the interior, one other thing I should note before I take you inside is that this top of the canopy, the roof area here, is actually a sticker. Previously on Speed Champions, they've done prints, but they switched to a sticker here, which I think actually turns out just fine, but it is a little bit of a downgrade compared to what they had established as their standard. And yeah, so the interior is pretty simple, but it's fine. And a figure will go in there, of course. He sits pretty straight up and down. Looks very good in the car. Looks like his visor came up just a little bit. Let me just fix that. Yeah, his head is just at the right level, which is great. Yeah, you get just a good view of him from the front as well. That's excellent placement. Looking at that figure more closely, he matches up with the color scheme very well, and I like the medium silver print on him especially. You see that on the legs with the honeycombing and also the stripes. It's also on the torso there. There we go. Now you can really see the shine of it. So it's not the brightest silver, which is good. I think that if they used the brightest silver, it would have looked a little bit tacky, but a really good looking driver that really matches this vehicle excellently. Very well done printing on it. A little bit of silver on the back too. I didn't realize that along the sides on the upper part of the torso. No alternate face for this one, which is just fine, but this works. And then there's this thing as a side build. This is supposed to be a fan in a wind tunnel. So you would do your wind tunnel testing with this. It's so incomplete as a wind tunnel fan that I would prefer to look at it as a dyno fan, where it makes a lot more sense. Now you just need to build yourself a little dyno stand or pretend that there is one, and then you can roll up to this and keep some airflow over the car while you're testing it in place. And this has a little gear on the back to let you spin it up. Now, why did they include this? Cynics would say to bump up the price, of course, because Lego only cares about money. They don't care about their fans. They just threw in this thing that nobody wants so that they could increase the price. Technically, an argument can be made that is true. I don't know if that argument can be won, but it's a lot easier to look at this from the perspective of the folks who are doing most of the work on sets, the designers, and to realize that they are given a budget for every single set. And at the end of a build of the main thing that you're actually paying for, that you actually want, that is intended to be the primary sale of the selling point of the set. If they have some budget left over, then they are allowed to make something extra. That's why you see a lot of little, often dumb builds on the sides of some of the, or most or some, I think most so far of the Speed Champions cars. They just have had extra budget left over, and I'm willing to bet in this case that this actually puts the thing over budget. I'm willing to bet that there was budget for probably about that. Just looking at the part count on this thing and the size of the pieces and everything, it doesn't have prints, but I still bet you there was budget for about that much. And the designer was like, look, I need to finish something, so let me do something. He probably gave a couple of options or a few options, and then this was chosen. And there's wiggle room. It's a whole thing, Lego is not a simple company. Working for Lego is not a simple thing. Doing product design is not a simple thing. There are a lot of steps, a lot of departments, and a lot of people with a lot of different talents who ultimately work together. But that's more than you need to know. You just came here to see a car and hear what I think about it. Here are the spare parts that are left over after you build the vehicle. So a couple of cool ones here. The rest of this stuff over here is pretty plain. And as usual, you do get an extra set of wheel cover inserts. Here's the gratuitous family shot I'm sure you knew was coming, with the earliest over on the right. The P1, the 720S, is in the center, and the new one's on the left. 720S was another that I felt did not capture the source material well at all. I think it was the worst at that. Definitely had some good elements, but in total, missed the mark. The original, the P1, looked pretty cool and worked out pretty well for the parts that were available at the time. The new one, the Senna, is just in a class of its own, relatively speaking. This is in a class of its own, I believe, relative to all of the Speed Champion builds to date. It just beats all of them. So yes, I have very strong feelings about this set. I think it is truly fantastic as a Lego build, even if you don't care about cars at all. I think it's truly fantastic as a Lego build if you like fast cars. And I think it's pretty cool as a McLaren Senna build if you care about McLaren Sennas. And you take off this piece and you replace it with just a plain gray one. That makes such a difference. It does still leave some, in my opinion, glaring errors, issues at least, with the stickers in particular. They just really were not able to do justice to the source material. Part of that, maybe a large part of that, was due to limitations in size of the die cuts that are allowed per Lego's own internal standards. They don't allow stickers to be made that go edge to edge on pieces. They just don't. And you're limited in how much you can kind of mess around with that. I suppose in hindsight, I should have moved this nose sticker back as far as I could, but then that would have left more of a gap up at the front. So that might be something that you can do. Certainly, if you're able to do something custom for that, you can make this look much better. Those side ones also just don't match the look of the real thing, which has a very tall relative area here. The real car's rear wheel and tire looks very small by comparison relative to the entire car, because the haunches of this are so strangely shaped for a supercar or hypercar. Being just so voluminous, being so large and round, and drooping down as much as they do to the sides and towards the rear really takes a lot of the aggressiveness out of the design of the car and the appearance of the real car. And that varies a little bit based on which color scheme that you're looking at. But yeah, overall, a very evocative experience for me, putting this thing together, looking at pictures of the real thing, comparing them directly to this, including that carbon theme edition, which matches it most closely, getting away from it, forgetting about it, coming back with a fresh eye and looking at it and seeing, just what my initial impression is again, with with less prejudice, and then sitting there and staring and looking at the thing and trying to figure out some of the lines and some of the design decisions, thinking of it from the perspective of someone designing this, trying to get inside of the head of the Lego designer. Yeah, just going back and forth. This thing just really drew me in, which is certainly a very positive thing overall. And if you like what you see in this, just get it. Trust me, you build it, you'll love it. Even if you agree with any of my criticisms of it, which I suspect most people won't, but that's okay. That's what opinions are all about. Everybody's going to have different ones, hopefully. Thank you for watching this review, though. Hope that you enjoyed it one way or another, and I'll talk to you again very soon.